Most of us don't choose partners from love. We choose from familiarity. What feels intense often feels like destiny. What feels calm often feels boring. And that confusion has cost many people years of emotional pain. If your nervous system grew up in chaos, you may mistake anxiety for attraction. If love once meant pleasing, performing, or proving your worth, you may chase people who withhold affection. So today we're not talking about romance as fantasy. We're talking about psychological safety, because the right partner doesn't activate your wounds. They reveal them gently and give you space to heal. These are 7 green flags that don't scream loudly, but quietly tell you you're choosing right. A healthy relationship is not about perfection. It's about presence. Love is not meant to keep your nervous system on high alert. It's meant to regulate it. When you're with the right person, your body doesn't need to brace itself. You don't rehearse conversations in your head. You don't wonder where you stand. The deepest green flags are not dramatic gestures. They are consistent emotional experiences. And if you've never had that before, it may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But discomfort doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it means healing. Let's talk about the 7 that you feel emotionally safe, not anxious. When you feel emotionally safe with someone, your body knows it before your mind does. There is a softening inside you. Your shoulders drop. Your breath deepens. You are not scanning for danger, not rehearsing what to say, not bracing for withdrawal or punishment. You are simply there, present, real. Anxiety in relationships is often mistaken for love, but it is actually the nervous system remembering something old. It is the echo of having to earn closeness, of love that was inconsistent, of connection that could be taken away without warning. When that is your history, your body stays alert. It watches tone, timing, silence. It learns to anticipate loss. Emotional safety is different. It does not activate hypervigilance. You are not afraid of being misunderstood or abandoned for expressing a need. You don't feel that familiar tightness in your chest when you speak your truth. Instead, there is room for your feelings to exist without being judged, corrected, or dismissed. With emotional safety, you don't have to manage the relationship alone. You're not carrying the invisible labor of keeping things okay. You're not walking on emotional eggshells. Your nervous system is allowed to rest. And this calm can feel unfamiliar, even unsettling, because if chaos once felt like love, peace may feel empty at first. But that emptiness is not lack, it is space. Space where you are no longer performing, pleasing, or proving your worth. In emotionally safe connection, you are not afraid of conflict because conflict does not threaten belonging. You know that rupture will be met with repair, not distance. That your feelings will be met with curiosity, not defensiveness. This is how healing happens in relationship, not through intensity, but through steadiness. Not through passion that burns hot and fast, but through presence that stays. Emotional safety is not excitement that keeps you awake at night. It is the quiet assurance that lets you sleep. And when love no longer makes you anxious, it's not because you care less, it's because your body no longer feels alone. Second thing is that they take responsibility instead of defending their ego. When someone takes responsibility, you can feel it immediately, not in their words, but in their openness. There is no rush to protect an image, no urgency to be right, no need to win the moment at the cost of the relationship. Defensiveness is a shield. It forms when admitting fault once meant shame, punishment, or loss of love. So the ego learns to survive by denying, justifying, or turning the blame outward. In many relationships, this becomes the silent destroyer of trust. Not the conflict itself, but the refusal to truly see one another. Responsibility looks very different. It sounds like, I can see how that hurt you without a but following it. It allows space for your experience to exist without being argued away. Your pain is not treated as an accusation. It is treated as information. When someone takes responsibility, they don't collapse into shame, nor do they rise into superiority. They stay present. They can tolerate discomfort without abandoning themselves or you. That capacity is a sign of emotional maturity because it means their sense of self is not fragile. In this kind of relationship, you are not forced to prove your reality. You don't need evidence, perfect wording, or emotional restraint to be taken seriously. Your feelings are not measured against their intent. What matters is impact, Taking responsibility also means repair. Not grand apologies repeated without change, but small, consistent shifts in behavior. The apology continues in action, and over time, trust grows not because mistakes don't happen, but because accountability does. This creates safety, because you learn that when something goes wrong, it won't turn into denial, withdrawal, or emotional punishment. It becomes a moment of connection instead of a threat. A partner who takes responsibility is not perfect, but they are available to learn, available to grow, available to see themselves honestly without turning away. And in that presence, love stops feeling like a courtroom where you must defend your case. It becomes a shared space where truth is allowed to breathe. Number 3 is, you're allowed to be fully yourself. When you are allowed to be fully yourself, it is more than just permission. It is recognition. It is the rare and quiet relief of being seen exactly as you are, without filters or performances. You don't have to measure your words, hide your quirks, or smooth your edges to be accepted. There is no invisible script you must follow to earn affection. Being fully yourself in a relationship means that your moods, your passions, your fears, and even your contradictions are not only tolerated but welcomed. Your joy can be loud, your sadness can be soft. Your opinions can challenge theirs without creating distance. And your mistakes are met not with scorn or punishment, but with understanding and space to learn. Most of us have learned early that parts of ourselves are unsafe to show. Perhaps curiosity was dismissed, anger was punished, or neediness was rejected. So we unconsciously shrink, censor, or perform. And even when we find love, we carry that habit of self-limitation. We hide pieces of ourselves, thinking we must trade authenticity for connection. The right partner doesn't require that trade. They do not demand that you dim your light to make theirs shine. They do not see your authenticity as a threat to their own. Instead, they hold a space where your true self can unfold naturally. In their presence, the nervous system stops bracing. You stop editing. You stop asking yourself, will they still love me if I say this? Being fully yourself also means vulnerability is safe. You can express desires, fears, or dreams without fear of ridicule or dismissal. You can make mistakes, and you are still considered worthy. You can show contradictions without having to resolve them immediately, because they are part of your living, growing self, and they are seen. Over time, this freedom transforms the relationship. It is not a performance of love, it is a living, breathing connection. And in that authenticity, intimacy deepens naturally. You do not need constant validation or reassurance, because your partner's acceptance is not conditional. They are witnessing you, not a curated version of you. When you are allowed to be fully yourself, love ceases to be transactional. It is no longer about earning affection, avoiding conflict, or managing impressions. It is a steady mutual recognition you are safe, you are enough, and together you can grow, not into a shape someone else desires, but into the fullness of who you truly are. This is rare, and it is a green flag that signals not just compatibility, but the kind of psychological and emotional alignment that allows both people to flourish. Number 4 is, conflict leads to understanding, not fear. When conflict leads to understanding rather than fear, it marks a profound shift in how love functions. In many relationships, disagreement triggers an old, familiar alarm inside us. The nervous system tenses, the chest tightens, and the mind races to defend, escape, or anticipate punishment. This is not about the conflict itself, it is about history. Many of us have learned that expressing a need, voicing an opinion, or asserting a boundary could lead to withdrawal, rejection, or emotional retaliation. That fear becomes so familiar that we unconsciously associate connection with danger. But in a relationship where conflict leads to understanding, the pattern is entirely different. Disagreements do not feel like a threat. They are not met with silence, sarcasm, or defensiveness. Instead, they are met with curiosity, a willingness to listen, to explore what went wrong, and to examine how both people contributed. You are not accused for feeling, and they are not accused for being human. Instead, the focus shifts from winning to learning, from defending to connecting. In these relationships, conflict becomes a mirror. It reflects not weakness, but growth. It exposes the cracks not to shame or blame, but to strengthen the bond. The tension that arises does not need to escalate into panic or withdrawal, because both people have learned that the relationship is bigger than any single disagreement. The foundation is trust, And trust is not shattered by difference. It is reinforced by repair. Repair is the quiet hero here. It isn't saying, I see how this affected you. And in adjusting behavior, not because of guilt, but because of care. It is in noticing your own triggers, owning your part, and making amends without expecting perfection. Over time, these repeated cycles of honest communication cultivate a space where you can bring your whole self, knowing that your feelings will be received, your needs considered, and your humanity respected. When conflict leads to understanding, you no longer approach difficult conversations with dread. You do not rehearse arguments in your head, nor do you anticipate emotional punishment. Your body is not bracing for impact. Instead, there is a sense of safety, even in tension. You can hold discomfort without dissolving into panic, because you have learned that expressing your truth does not mean losing connection. This dynamic transforms love from something fragile and reactive into something resilient and alive. It is not that conflict disappears, it is inevitable, but that it becomes a vehicle for growth rather than a trigger for fear. And when you experience this repeatedly, you begin to trust not only your partner, but also yourself, that your feelings matter, your voice matters, and the relationship is capable of holding both of you, fully human and fully present. In such a space, love is not fragile, it is flexible. It is a relationship that can withstand friction and emerge stronger. A place where understanding, not fear, becomes the default response to every challenge. No 5 is they respect your boundaries without taking them personally. When someone respects your boundaries without taking them personally, it reveals a depth of emotional maturity that is rare and transformative. In most relationships, boundaries are often interpreted as rejection, criticism, or a challenge to someone's worth. Many of us have experienced that moment when we try to assert a need, a preference, or a limit only to be met with defensiveness, guilt-tripping, or withdrawal. That response teaches us that our needs might endanger connection, so we learn to hide them, negotiate them silently, or abandon them entirely. A partner who truly respects boundaries operates differently. When you say, I need space, or I'm not comfortable with this, they do not hear it as an attack on them. They do not shrink, argue, or try to manipulate you into changing your mind. Instead, they hear it as a statement of self-awareness, yours not theirs, and they respond with recognition and consideration. Their focus is on your humanity, not their ego. This respect is not passive. It is active listening combined with integrity. It shows up in the way they adjust their behavior, not to earn approval, but because they understand the importance of emotional safety. Your boundaries are not obstacles to connection. They are the architecture that allows intimacy to flourish. The respect is felt in small gestures, waiting without pressure, asking without assumption, and honoring the limits you set without resentment. When boundaries are respected without personalizing them, you can finally relax into the relationship. You do not have to explain, defend, or justify your needs. You are allowed to have limits, to say no, to prioritize your well-being, and the relationship continues to thrive. You do not feel like asserting yourself will destabilize the connection. Instead, it reinforces mutual respect. This dynamic also models a healthy communication. When boundaries are met without defensiveness, it teaches you that relationships do not require self-erasure. You learn that intimacy is not about merging completely or abandoning individuality. It is about maintaining your own integrity while walking together. Over time, this creates a profound sense of safety, not just emotionally, but in your nervous system. You no longer brace for conflict or resentment. You no longer anticipate that your limits will provoke anger, disappointment, or withdrawal. When a partner can hold your boundaries without taking them personally, the relationship becomes a place of freedom rather than confinement. You can explore, grow, and express yourself fully, knowing that your identity will not trigger blame or insecurity in them. And in that space, love stops being transactional. It is no longer a negotiation of fear and compliance. It is a steady, mutual honoring of two whole, autonomous human beings choosing to be together. This respect for boundaries is not just a green flag, it is a foundational pillar. It signals that the relationship can contain differences, accommodate needs, and nurture growth without compromising either person. It is a silent, consistent assurance that you can be fully yourself, fully alive, and fully safe. And another important thing, they are consistent, not confusing. When someone is consistent rather than confusing, it brings a kind of relief to your nervous system that is almost physical. In many relationships, unpredictability becomes a form of emotional conditioning. One day there is warmth, attention, and closeness. The next, distance, silence, or inexplicable withdrawal. Over time, your body learns to brace, to anticipate disappointment, to read every tone and gesture for hidden meaning. Love, in this pattern, is experienced less as connection and more as a minefield. Consistency, by contrast, is quietly revolutionary. It is not about perfection, grand gestures, or constant excitement. It is about alignment. What they say and what they do match over time. Their behavior is reliable, their attention steady, their actions reflective of their words. When you make a request, express a need, or voice a concern, you do not have to decode it or fear backlash. Their response, while not flawless, follows a predictable pattern of respect, care, and accountability. This consistency signals something deeper: a partner whose sense of self is intact, whose emotional world is regulated enough to meet yours without constant upheaval. It shows that they are not driven by insecurity or compulsion to test your commitment. They do not use ambiguity as a tool to manipulate or control. Instead, their steadiness allows you to lower your defenses, to stop performing, and to stop anticipating chaos. The impact of this on intimacy is profound. Your nervous system can finally relax. You do not enter conversations rehearsing, analyzing, or fearing withdrawal. You are able to show up as you are, knowing that their behavior will not contradict their words without reason. Confusion is exhausting. It creates a chronic state of tension. Consistency, on the other hand, cultivates trust, patience, and a quiet sense of safety that permeates every interaction. Consistency also communicates respect in its most subtle form. It tells you that your time, your feelings, and your boundaries matter. It shows that they are present not only in moments of intensity, but in the ordinary, mundane rhythms of daily life. Small actions, remembering commitments, following through on promises, keeping agreements, accumulate over time to build an unspoken confidence in the relationship. When a partner is consistent, misunderstandings are easier to navigate because they are not compounded by unpredictability. You can address conflicts without fear of arbitrary responses. You can expect their core behavior to remain anchored, even when emotions fluctuate. This does not remove the need for growth or adaptation, but it ensures that change comes from a place of conscious choice rather than reaction or instability. Ultimately, consistency is a form of emotional containment. It allows the relationship to hold both people fully without tipping into chaos. It creates a foundation upon which trust can grow, intimacy can deepen, and love can feel safe. In a world where unpredictability is often mistaken for excitement, consistency is one of the quietest yet strongest signals that you are truly with the right person. Last thing is, being with them helps you heal, not regress. When being with someone helps you heal rather than regress, it transforms the very way you experience love. Many of us carry wounds from early life, patterns of neglect, abandonment, criticism, or conditional affection. These wounds are not erased by relationships. In fact, they are often triggered. With the wrong partner, old fears, insecurities, and unresolved trauma are mirrored back at us, magnified and reinforced. You find yourself repeating patterns, shrinking, reacting, or seeking approval in ways that echo the past. But with the right partner, these patterns are not repeated as punishment. Instead, they are met with presence, understanding, and steadiness. You are not blamed for your triggers. You are seen as a person navigating the complexity of life. When difficult emotions arise, jealousy, anger, sadness, or fear, they are not met with judgment, withdrawal, or escalation. They are met with patience, curiosity, and care. This allows you to experience your own humanity fully, without the added weight of fear or shame. Healing in a relationship does not mean the other person fixes you. It does not mean they carry your trauma or erase your past. Healing is a reflection. Their presence, consistency, and responsiveness provide a container in which your nervous system can slowly learn safety. You are allowed to feel, express, and process without fear of retaliation or abandonment. Over time, this teaches your body and mind that closeness can exist without threat, and that love can be a source of regulation rather than dysregulation. A partner who helps you heal encourages growth rather than enforcing old patterns. They challenge you gently, not to control, but to expand your self-awareness. They celebrate your autonomy and your victories, and they witness your struggles without taking them as personal affronts. In their presence, the defensive walls you once built around your heart can soften. You start to unlearn the habits that kept you small and reactive. Being with someone who heals does not mean every moment is comfortable or easy. Growth often feels uncomfortable because it asks us to confront our shadow, face our vulnerabilities, and relinquish long-held coping mechanisms. But discomfort in this context is not danger, it is invitation. Invitation to reclaim parts of yourself that were hidden, ignored, or dismissed. In contrast, a partner who triggers regression amplifies the old patterns. They unconsciously push your buttons in ways that mirror your past traumas, keeping you in cycles of fear, insecurity, and reactive behavior. With them, love feels like risk rather than refuge. You leave interactions drained, confused, or diminished. True healing in a relationship feels stabilizing. It may feel unfamiliar at first because if you have only known conditional love, calm and respect can feel strange. But slowly your body remembers safety. Your mind begins to trust your own judgments. And your heart learns that connection does not have to cost you your sense of self. Being with someone who helps you heal is not about being perfect or never making mistakes. It is about being present, accountable, and attuned. It is about creating a relational environment where both people can grow without fear, without repeating the past, and without losing themselves. When love becomes a vehicle for healing rather than a trigger for regression, it is not just comforting, it is transformative. It teaches you that relationships can be nurturing, that intimacy can be safe, and that love, when embodied in awareness and care, has the power to help you reclaim the parts of yourself that you were once afraid to show. Love, at its deepest, is not about perfection, excitement, or constant intensity. It is about presence. It is about finding someone who meets you fully, gently, without fear, without judgment, and allows you to meet them in the same way. The right partner does not complete you, fix you, or define your worth. They reflect back your humanity, hold space for your growth, and walk beside you as you reclaim your wholeness. With them, you can finally breathe. You can finally feel seen, safe, and understood. When love becomes a place of safety, respect, and healing, it transforms not just the relationship, but you. It reminds you that connection is meant to nurture, not to wound, to steady, not to destabilize. And in that sacred space, you realize that being truly seen and truly accepted is not a reward. It is a home for your heart, so choose wisely. Choose the love that heals, the love that holds, the love that whispers to your soul, here you are safe. Here you are enough. Here you are free.